Welcome back, guys. Today we're tackling front disc brakes on this 1994 Chevy Blazer. We're not only going to flush all the old brake fluid out, but we're also going to do new calipers, rotors, and brake pads. But that process doesn't start down here. We're going to grab some gloves and I'll meet you up top. So if you pop your hood and come to the driver's side of the engine bay, you'll find the brake booster, master cylinder, and reservoir all on this side. First thing we want to do is pull out the old dirty fluid in the reservoir, and we'll have nice clean fluid draining out when we pull off these calipers. And hopefully we won't have to pull out too much nasty fluid when we bleed the system. So I've just got a towel and we're gonna clean off the cap so nothing falls in there when we pull it off. And then you just pull up on one of the sides and it should pull out like that. And you want to be very careful not to drip brake fluid on anything. This will destroy paint. It'll oxidize basically anything it touches. So always have a towel or a rag and put this somewhere safe. I would call this a brown color. Clean, fresh brake fluid should be a pale yellow. So what we're gonna do is stick one end of a siphon pump, or you could use your mom's turkey baster or something to scoop out as much of that fluid as you can. That's just gonna save you having to push all that fluid through the brake system when you bleed it. So now let's see which end sucks, and we'll put the other end in a water bottle. Nope. Ah, there we go. And we're also going to drain this front part here as well, carefully making sure we don't drip anywhere. We're gonna pull this whole mess out of the engine bay and we'll clean that up later. So that's not what you want. That's not the color it should be. This vehicle calls for .3, but we can use .3 and .4 brake fluid in it. So we're just gonna top this off and make sure to fill both sides. Yeah, that's to the max. And one other thing to note, you always wanna use fresh brake fluid. If it's been sitting on the shelf for a couple weeks, probably just go pick up a new bottle. As it sits, it collects moisture out of the air and will boil at lower temperatures than this brake fluid would normally. Now, because we're pulling the caliper off, we're gonna go ahead and put our cap back on so we don't lose too much of that fluid when we pull off the line. We're back down in the wheel well. We're gonna start tearing this apart. Most of it is in pretty, actually decent shape. But on the other side, the brake caliper, the bleed nipple on the back of the caliper is snapped off, which means we don't really have a way to bleed it. And replacement calipers for this model of car are $24.99. So it's not really worth my time to mess with that piece of junk, and I'll be able to get these off and return them for the $15 core charge, which means to replace these calipers, it's only costing me 10 bucks. While the caliper is still attached to the car, what we want to do is try and push in the brake piston so we have enough room to wiggle this off. Since I'm not reusing this rotor or these pads, I don't really care if I'm prying against them. We can just stick a screwdriver or a pry bar in between the brake pad and the rotor and just give it a little pressure and do the same thing on the bottom. So now you can see that whole assembly has freed up a little bit and released a little bit of that tension. Now we should be able to get this caliper off. This caliper is held on by two 3/8 Allen bolts. So we can stick this in here somewhere. And then we can, hopefully that was it breaking loose and not, I think we're good. Cool. Okay, and now that I've got that one loosened up, I'm gonna break the other one loose before I take that all the way out. And the other one's down here behind this rubber bumper, so we'll stick this in there. Now before we take those bolts all the way out, we're going to break loose this brake line and might take some force to break free. This is a 7/16 and we can get on there with a socket. Oh. Nice. Okay, and that's gonna start leaking fluid, so if you care, put something down, and we can pull out our bolt and set it to the side. There's one of the copper crush washers. There's one on the other side of this line as well that we'll have to make sure goes back in place, but for now, we're just going to wrap that guy up and try and work quick. So, we can take these two bolts out the rest of the way, and now, because we relieved some of the pressure on that piston earlier, we can slide this guy off. And now we can pull off this old rotor. So I always put the lug nuts back on my studs, that way none of them get kicked across the room, which is why they're here. Sometimes, actually a lot of times, rotors will be rusted around this part, and this will be like one solid piece. In that case, you want to take your big hammer and just give it a good whack, but we got lucky on this one, and we can just pull this off. So now, we're gonna want to grab a new brake rotor, and you don't want to get this super nasty, but we're gonna go ahead, put this on. Now I know what you're thinking. The rotor doesn't go on like that, Phil. And you're right. But these come with a anti-rust coating, so you definitely want to have a can of brake cleaner and a couple extra towels to clean off these rotors and do it really well on both sides, and try not to touch them. Just so that doesn't go anywhere. And we're gonna clean off this side now before we put on the caliper, because it'll be easier to clean, and we can give it one final wipe down later as well. So we've got our new freshly painted caliper, and we're going to go ahead and insert the brake pads exactly how they came out on the old one. And for that, we've got this big guy with the metal clips that'll clip into the caliper. And then to install the other side, you want to make sure you have the side that has this metal point facing the same direction as the bleed nipple. So in that case, this one is going that way, and this just needs to sit in the two little divots right there. So we're going to push that just like so. And now we can push these bolts in so they won't be in the way when we try and slide this on, and slide that onto the rotor. And we're gonna go ahead and get these bolts started, and it might take a little wiggling to get them lined up properly. All right, then we're gonna unbundle our super effective brake fluid device. I don't know if you can see that there. This crush washer on the back side is stuck on there. You definitely don't want to stack two of these or it will leak. So maybe, perfect. Give that a quick wipe down. And what we're gonna do is put one washer on the bolt, put it through like so, put another washer on this side. Then we can take this and make sure it's sitting how it's supposed to be. And because of the square block, there's only one way it should sit. And you can go ahead and thread that in. And that was our 7/16. And we'll tighten that down. And now that we aren't on a time crunch to keep fluid from leaking everywhere, we're gonna go ahead and tighten these bolts up the rest of the way. Now that we've got this side all bolted together, we're gonna hop over and do the other side. It's exactly the same as this side, so we aren't gonna show you. After that, we're gonna jump into the drum brakes in the rear, and then we're gonna show you how to bleed the whole thing in a separate video. All right, so this is the old caliper. We've got a full battery, put it on high.
You want to get the big gun just for fun?
Yeah, you know what? Let me get the big gun just for fun. Not that it really matters. We're only on 3 bars of battery here. I think this is going to be one of those take it off or break it off situations. So, yeah. So, that's what happened on this side. Let me go show you the other side real fast. And here's the passenger side. This has been rusted for a while, so it's probably nothing new. Hopefully this helped y'all. For now, that's it. If you like the video, like the video. If you want to subscribe for more, subscribe for more, and we'll catch you on the next one.